Hello, everyone. Welcome to Christopher's Entertainment Blog. I am your host, Chris, and welcome to another review video for The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 13, entitled The Same Boat. Wow, guys. Wow. This episode was flipping fantastic. Freaking fantastic. I have to say that ever since the comeback from the break that they've had, every single episode has been, I think, great. It's just been fantastic. The action has been on point. The episodes have been really good. The stories have been solid. One of the best second halves I think they have ever done on the show. It is certainly becoming the best one. And this episode for me was, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what we were getting. I know what happened last week. That massacre that happened last week was insane and just so good at the end. And then we find out that Maggie and Carol have been captured by the Saviors. And I was really hoping that we'd find out how they got captured, and that's exactly what we get in this episode at the beginning. We find out what happened and how they got captured. It was great. And I was like, okay, maybe this episode's going to be a little slow. Maybe they're going to stretch this out. It's going to be kind of, they're going to try to like maybe set up maybe the next episode for next week. Wow. After it went to like the first commercial break and came back, and then they were dealing with them being drugged to that slaughterhouse or whatever that was. Uh, it turned into, for me personally, it turned into like, wow, this episode is insane, absolutely insane. I could not keep my eyes off the screen. I had to find out what was going on, and the episode went so fast for me personally. I mean, I was so hooked on the episode of what was going to happen next to Maggie and Carol and who these other people were. I mean, I was in the dark about these saviors about as much as Carol and Maggie were. I mean, the whole audience really were like, what are these people? Who are these people? What are they going to do to Maggie and Carol? It was an intense episode, a really super intense episode, and I know like the beginning of The Walking Dead, like the seasons 1, 2, 3. For me personally, were always intense. Like what was going to happen next, and that feeling of, who's going to die or what's going to happen. It was just so intense, and that's what I got in this episode. I really felt like there was an intense, uh, just a sense about the episode. I mean, I can't explain it, but I mean, it was very cool, and I really enjoyed the whole experience of this episode. When they got Carol and Maggie in that slaughterhouse, and they took the hoods off, and we're like wondering like what's going to happen next, and then Carol starts to like hyperventilate. I'm like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? I was a little surprised by that, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, she's baiting them, she's tricking them to believe that she's like this weak person, or she's baiting them in. I thought she was going to go Rambo style on them. And then she got that rosary, and she was trying to trick them into thinking, to keep the rosary, and she always had this like the wheels turning, how to escape it. And I love the fact that in the end of it, she used the rosary then to make like a sharp device to cut out the tape, which is genius. It really shows that Carol is still going to do anything it takes to try to survive. But I was a little bit thrown off, though, personally, about the whole thing where she was hyperventilating, and I was like, okay, she's baiting them. But then I was like, as the episode went on, and I was like, was that an act, or was it real? I mean, that's what threw me off a little bit. And then by the end of it, I mean, you see that it was actually kind of real, that she is having some issues and she's not in her right mind like she was. So I thought that was kind of odd for me. And it turned out that Maggie was actually the badass in this episode more than Carol. She was the one that was telling Carol to shoot Paula at the end, and Carol did not want to shoot Paula because I guess she's seen some of herself in Paula a little bit. But she did not hesitate. Carol did not hesitate to shoot Michelle, I believe. I mean, bam, right in the head. I mean, as soon as she sliced the stomach of Maggie, that was it. She wasn't having any of that. And I was like, good, finally. Like, what the heck are you doing? So I mean, those saviors of Paula, Michelle, Molly, and Donnie, I thought were on one side. I was like, these are great actors because I hate those characters. I hate them. So I was glad that Carol and Maggie done away with them. I was like, wow, thank you. And even though we see some little bit of layers to the Paula character, how she was explaining to Carol that she had a husband and she had four daughters, and what everything that she lost is pretty much the same way Carol has. But the thing is that Paula's went to a dark place, a super dark place, to where she doesn't care anymore. She just kills whoever she wants and does whatever she wants. Unlike Carol, who does what she has to do to survive, but she knows that there's some type of consequences there as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I and that whole setup, the whole setup that Maggie um, was able to set up that Molly, where she comes in the door and has Donnie hooked up because he's already a walker, has him hooked up by the door, and that whole booby trap was awesome. I thought that was great. When they were able to get the rest of the reinforcements into that slaughterhouse place and close the door, and then he lit it on fire, I was like, whoa, whoa, guys, that is insane stuff. There was probably a couple maybe small negatives that I had. I mean, nothing major. One of them was to do with maybe Maggie and Carol getting out at the same time. I mean, they both cut their bonds at the same time and reunited. I mean, I thought that was a little convenient, maybe, but I mean, it wasn't that big a deal. And then also the thing with Rick, on the walkie-talkie, and Paula kept, you know, reaching him on the walkie-talkie, kept calling him on the walkie-talkie, and it just seemed like a little convenient. But then she's like, no, 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 there was no static. They're closer than they're saying, and she was kind of paranoid about it, about being sniped off or picked off. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. I mean, that wasn't. I mean, it was kind of a negative at first because I thought it was like a little, because I could tell that it seemed a little clear over the walkie-talkie, and I was like, okay. Then they addressed that, and I was like, okay, that's awesome. So, I mean, there wasn't that really big of any negative. There wasn't really any negatives at all for me that were, that disrupted me from this episode. I thought this episode was fantastic, and I loved it that in the end, Carol and Maggie took care of business. They wiped out this whole group. They took them out. I mean, I thought that was so great, and even the reinforcements and everything, and it was just those two. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And then in the end, uh, the group comes in and they have that Primo guy, and he's the one that says, "I'm Negan," and then Rick's just bam shoots him right point blank in the head. Good night. I'm like, wow. And even Paula and Michelle and all them said, we're all Negan. It's kind of sound kind of like the Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus. I really feel that the consequences of what happened at the compound and the consequences what happened at the slaughterhouse is really going to come back to bite them, because there is a Negan out there. There is a Negan, and I think there's more of the group, the Saviors, out there. I really do. I think there's a lot more. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I think, and I think it's going to come back to bite them. I really, really do. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. But this episode was flipping fantastic, and I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next episode. I gotta believe the next episode is gonna be a setup episode or a filler episode. That's what I thought this one was gonna maybe be a little bit at first, and then I was like, wow, this is fantastic. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. Hey guys, if there's anything that I missed about the episode that you guys want to talk about, please, please write in the comments below what you liked about the episode or what you didn't like about the episode. But that will do it for me for this week for another Walking Dead review video. Until next time, take it easy.